And Jackie's been there with us for 100 years now. It's almost 9 years now. It's 10 years, almost getting 10 years now. And it's been a joy. She worked for Randy Clark. Randy Clark is one of our favorite speaker of mine. And he came to India, spoke when he did two or three times ministry in India with us. And again, Daddy showed me and Julie, Jackie, and I said, Jackie, please join us. And the one person who was not happy was Randy. He said, you stole my best. I said, thank you. I said, you trained the best. So I'm grateful for the training. So I just told her. And as usual, Tiffany and John are with us, and they've been an experience with us. It is not a relationship you value. You value trust. Growth comes from trust. And that growth, trust, will take you to the next level. So that's what they gave us, and John and Tiffany and Jackie, and this the bigger team is happening. The bigger team happening in Atlanta. So I'm going to have her speak now, and let's see what the Holy Spirit speaks to her. Amen. So we're going to clap and give God the glory.
Good morning. You guys are awesome. I love it. Well, in case you hadn't noticed, Robbie's from India. And I spent almost 10 years in India. My friend Elizabeth, I actually met her with YWAM when I was there years ago. She reminded me it was like nearly 15 years ago. I've had a long history in missions. Robbie said 100 years, so we revealed that I'm old. But something about Indian culture you might have picked up on. How many of you got one of these? Yeah, it's got the schedule. Did you notice that Robbie followed it exactly? I'm gonna tweak it. I'm gonna do a little bit on the vision. It says here that at 2:15 is vision casting. I'm gonna fill you in a little bit on who we are as a ministry since our time is less, because I don't want your stomachs to be talking and not hearing what the Spirit's saying. So I'm gonna give you my message this afternoon. But just to fill you in a little bit about who we are as a ministry, Robbie talked about RT4. It's Radical Transformation 4. And it really is something revelatory that the Lord's released in 2012. So my journey and how I met Robbie mentioned I was working with Randy Clark's ministry at Global Awakening. And so I was there, and one of the trips, so I'd done the ministry school. I had no, let me back, I'm going to give you the whole version really fast. Okay, so I got saved when I was a teenager, and I really wanted to go to college. And the Lord, took me on that intersection and said, I want you to do Youth with a Mission, DTS. I'm like, what is that? That sounds weird now. I'm going to college. I got an agenda, I got a plan, I know where I'm going with my life. And he said, do this. And I surrendered. I said, fine, I'm doing this, then I'm going to college. In the first few weeks that I was in the school, the Lord said, you're called to be a missionary. America's not your home. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but okay, let's do it. I remember going home to my home church, and my pastor was like, you're called to be a missionary. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like it was a sealed deal. And so it's been over 20 years that I've been in that line of work, saying, yes, Jesus, what do you have for me? Let's do it. So I was with YWAM for 10 years, and long story, he brought me to do the Global Awakening Ministry School, birthed out of a hunger for more. And my heart has always been to be on the mission field. It's always been, he's just put that within me, right? And so when I went to do the ministry school, I had no plans to stay in America. I was not excited about that. And so I finished the school, and I had no release to go anywhere. So I'm like, all right, I felt very strongly that the Lord told me to learn administrative things, which for a missionary is like the last thing you do. Like, the only way that I ever saw anything related to Excel was when my name was on a roster for a spreadsheet. I never actually saw what Excel looked like, because I never had to do any computer work. And so I just served, made countless cups of tea, cleaned bathrooms, served in communities, because a lot of missions is serving, Elizabeth can tell you. And I did that faithfully, and I loved sowing into the nations and serving. And the Lord said, learn administrative things. I'm like, that's just really weird. I wasn't really into it, but I said, okay, Lord, if you're not going to send me to the mission field, then the closest thing that I can do is to at least send people to the mission field. So Randy Clark has a department where they do short-term trips on a regular basis. So I said, well, maybe I can just be an intern. I'll just like volunteer in that department, because that's what I thought I should do. So I talked to them, and they're like, well, actually, we need a new assistant director, the one that just gotten let go for some issues. And I was like, okay, well, I can apply for that. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm so not qualified. Like, this is a highly administrative job. Like, full-on spreadsheets, not simple ones, but like formulas and details. And they send like 200 youth to Brazil every summer, like, and tons of trips. And I'm like, okay, well, that was a little bit more than I had in mind, but okay, let me just submit my resume. So they hire me. I get on the phone, the director of the department, who doesn't live in the office, he lives in the office, he calls me and he said, you got the job. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I hang up and I'm like, they're so gonna figure out they hired the wrong person. They're so gonna know that they made a mistake. And anyway, they hire me, and I got to serve and grew me like in incredible ways. I felt every day I was sinking because I was so stretched, right? Like the first spreadsheet I saw had like tons of formulas. It was literally to send 200 plus youth to Brazil. That was my first trip to plan. Just felt every day I was drowning, and the Lord was so faithful, like in that stretching, to grow me and challenge me. And I was waiting. I had spent 4 years in India, and I felt such a strong calling there. And he took me out of India in this, season. And then we had an opportunity to plan a trip to India to do a pastor's conference and crusade. And Will Hart worked for Global at that time, and he said, you have to work with Ravi. He is amazing. He's doing great work. You guys have to work with him. So that year, Randy changed the trip to work with someone else to Ravi. So that was when I first met him, and we planned this trip, and it was not my plan. I went to India, and it was like one of the first meetings where I was like, why don't you come work with us? And I'm like, because the Lord said to lay down in India. I'm not doing missions right now. This is where I'm serving. And long story short, that was January to September. I moved to India and lived there for over 5 years, and have been working with Ravi Joy for about 9 years. Not quite 100, but maybe it feels like that. But it's just been a crazy faith journey. And Ravi talked about this Radical Transformation 4, and really seeing people healed and set free and released into destiny. And that had been something that the Lord had put on my heart from the time that I got saved. Just this Isaiah 61 mandate to really see people set free, delivered, and that whole healing element. And I remember when I first came to India, like, I really didn't know much about Ravi and Julie. Like, you guys, how many of you have seen Father Lights? Okay, almost everyone in this room, pretty much. I never saw that movie because it hadn't been filmed when I went there. I knew nothing about Ravi and Julie when I got there. I just knew that the Lord said go, and every day was a new day of like, who are you? You're so crazy. Like, every story that was coming out, I'm like, are these real stories? They're just like too weird. Like, how do you make up this stuff? And I started to see it, and I'm like, every day was a new adventure. Every day was a new level of encountering risk and seeing God move in a new way. But one of the early conversations that I had with Ravi was, what's your take on, this healing of the heart, inner healing? Basically, his response at that time, he was, I'll just summarize from what I took away from that conversation. Church planting is real ministry, and inner healing is crutch ministry. I feel like they had zero interest, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, Jesus, you know what I'm called to, you know what my passion is, you know what my heart is. Why did you send me to this guy? we're just like on opposite spectrums of the direction that we're going in. And it's just interesting, right? Like, the Lord has us say yes to things without knowing. A lot of times at all what we're stepping into. And most of the time, it doesn't look like what we think it's going to look like. And in the process, it usually looks worse than what we think it's going to look like. And then it takes shape, and you're like, oh, I see what you were doing. So it was probably a year, 2 years into it, Robbie started going through some things, and the Lord began to meet him in that journey and really began to release this message, what we're calling RT4, which it's big, right? Because healing of the whole person encompasses a lot of things, and it's changing our thought process and aligning our behaviors to it and changing the way we perceive things, giving us spiritual authority. It hits those marks to release us into our destiny. And that changed everything for Robbie, because church planting is great, but releasing people into their destiny multiplies church planting. It multiplies the kingdom. So what we're about as a ministry is really seeing people released into the fullness of who they are. Because it looks different for everybody, right? We were created so uniquely. We have bent towards different things. But when we're alive, fully alive and fully healed, and we embrace our identity of who we're made to be, and we're set free from those things that Robbie was talking about. We're set free from worry. We're set free from guilt. We're set free from expectations of other people. We're set free from their perceptions. Then everything else fades away, and the one thing remains. And that's that my eyes get locked into who he is. My emotions get connected to who he is, right? Because then I can walk in joy when circumstances dictate otherwise. I can walk in freedom when my situation looks like a prison. And when I do that, I begin to change the environment around me. And it's so amazing, right? And we're seeing lives impacted. We're seeing lives set a whole new course, because this understanding, when embraced, changes everything. And that's really what we're about as a ministry. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. I was going to ask you at lunch, but since we changed the schedule, Ben and his wife Cameron drove in from Tennessee, but they've been recently doing coaching with Robbie, and I've been inspired by their lives because they have a radical hunger for God to use them. And it's just been so cultivated, and I know your coaching with Robbie's been part of your journey, and Ben has been sharing crazy testimonies because he's just become so radical to say yes to God, and God's just showing up. So I'm putting you on the spot, but would you guys mind sharing a testimony? Yeah, okay. You want to start, Ben? Okay, your thoughts. So I'm just going to have Ben share a little bit about how has the coaching transformed your thought process, and how has it affected your behavior?
Didn't prepare anything. What is your name?
Oh, me, Daniel.
Daniel.
Yes.
I was Daniel about 4 or 5 months ago. And I'll just be transparent with my life and what we've been through. I became addicted to pornography at the age of 11. And just had this picture of a couple 11 and 12-year-olds show me what sex was, and through that came, pornography, and it was just 18 years of my life was just addicted to this. And 6 months before getting married, I said, I'm not going to do it anymore, and so I didn't. And then a few months after getting married, I crept right back in. And told her about it. It rocked her. It really hurt her a lot. And so I didn't, look at it for another 8 months. And it crept right back in because I tried to fight it. I was just trying to fight this thing. I can do this. I can take up the banner myself. And over the next 6 years of our marriage, it was just steeped in lying, and she'd ask me every once in a while, how are you doing with that? Oh, I'm doing good, And about a year ago, she really asked me, how are you doing? And I came clean and told her about it, and it was really difficult. And I would say over the next few months, it was the hardest part of our entire marriage, for sure. I mean, it was, we went through it. It was extremely difficult. And we went through counseling and seeing people, and randomly someone gave us Father of Lights, and at the end of Father of Lights, we're like, Robbie guy was really crazy. The witch doctor all that. We were like, man, that was really weird. So Camry looked up into Ravi, and he's in America. Kingdom Foundations, that's cool. And so, cool, a free 30-minute phone call. And so
Didn't expect him to answer the phone.
So yeah, Camry's you can describe it. But so she spoke with him. I'm like, well, I gotta call him now. So I called him, and it has been just the Lord through Ravi. Ravi, I don't. This is no knock to you. You haven't changed me. The Lord has changed me through you. And the last 4 months of my life, I was telling a friend this, that before all of this, actually, Camry was like, I don't think you know, when we were in the thick of it, she was like, I don't think you know who you are. I don't think you know who you are. What are you about? I don't know. I have no idea. Just like what you were saying, I just felt like a ship with no rudder. I just was drifting. And over the last 4 months, going through stuff with Ravi and learning obedience, that the voice that I have heard for years, that I've passed off as just my thinking and, shying away from it, and this spirit of disappointment, and discovering that I had this, spirit of disappointment on me my whole life, and realizing, and Ravi was able to point that out, and it just hit me to the core. And since then, I have just been radically changed with my life. I mean, just radically changed with my life. I struggle to lie now, and while that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, I know how big of a deal that is. I have not looked at porn and even had a desire for porn, not even a little bit, since almost a year now, which is unheard of. And I know how big that is.
Well, and did you say, Robbie said, like, God just healed your...
Yeah, it was like in the first phone call, he says, right now, or maybe it was the second one, right now, Ben, the Lord is healing your amygdala and your hippocampus right now. I don't even know what that is. But that you will no longer struggle with the spirit of disappointment. And I haven't. And it's not that it hasn't tempted me in different moments, but I've never fallen to the trap of it.
Well, he said you have to fill it. So you have to fill it with you things, not just letting it be empty, but like now.
Right. No, it's good. So it's amazing just how much my life has been. In 4 months, I was telling a friend this the other day, I felt like an adopted child. I knew that I had a father, right? Somewhere in this world, I had a father. But now I know my father. That I knew that the Father was real somewhere. I knew Jesus was real. I knew miracles were real, stuff like that. But now I know him. And I know the voice, and it just keeps getting more and more and more clearer in different moments, that when I hear him speak, I actually step. It's like, we were driving from Tennessee yesterday, and we're at a gas station. I'm filling up this, nasty coffee, and there's a cashier put cigarettes on the shelf, and I just felt, it was just like an impression. It's not like I don't know, the audible voice. It's not like anybody's talking to me, but it kind of is. It just feels like a feeling that I'm just supposed to tell her that the Lord loves her, and then ask her about something with a recent breakup with her boyfriend. I don't know, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And that hasn't been me, I promise. I did not grow up in a life of Christianity even being in my past. I came to know God at about 17, but gifts and miracles and all that stuff was not part of my life. And so I go up to this woman and I say, hey, this kind of sounds crazy. And this is all within the last 4 months I started doing this. I said, I know it's kind of crazy, but I think I'm just supposed to tell you that the Lord loves you. And she says, thank you. And another thing is, was there like a recent breakup with a boyfriend or something? She starts to well up, and she says, I just got divorced. And so, all I got to share with her in this 30-second interaction that I think was giving the tree, right, planting a tree for her, is that the Lord loves you. And not only does He love you, but He knows you specifically for some donkey, right, of just getting coffee and obeyed the voice to share it with her, and through the obeying of the voice to share it with her, I will never meet this woman again. But hopefully her life was changed through that moment of just some guy buying coffee. Last night we got to see a guy get healed. I got to be a part of it. His right leg literally grew in front of me about 3/4 of an inch. I never seen a healing in my life until about 4 months ago. My entire life. So, all I have to say is that I think really there's been so much I can't even describe how much my life has changed in 4 months with Robbie and just what the Lord's doing. And there's just so much. I mean, there's just so many everyday stories every day of stories of talking to guys at a tile store, or sharing words of wisdom to a nurse. I just got my wisdom teeth out 2 weeks ago. I was completely on drugs. I don't remember a single thing. And she was wheeling me out on a wheelchair, and she said to Cameron, she's like, man, your husband in there just got me to cry. And Karen's like, oh boy. And yeah, of course he did. And then so for the whole week, I couldn't remember what I said. I had no idea. I went back for my checkup, and sure enough, she's my nurse. And she says, do you remember our conversation last week? And the Lord spoke specific things to her life that I knew how long her and her boyfriend had been dating for. I don't remember any of this. And I knew exactly how long they've been dating for, that they were about to get married. She's like, yeah, we just got engaged. And that the Lord is telling her that their marriage is going to be good, and that He loves them, and He's caring for them, that her husband's going to be a contractor someday, and that she's going to work with special needs. And I asked her, what do you think about that? Because I don't remember anything else. What do you think about that? And she said, I always wanted to work with special needs all the way throughout middle school. Well, anyway, I could keep going. There's literally, I don't know, in the last 4 months, there's probably 50 different interactions that I'm just like, I just can't believe this. And it just keeps getting better and better. It's like, every single day, it's like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. I didn't even tell you, but when we were driving, after talking with you on the phone, Robbie, we're driving, and I just really felt we were supposed to go to downtown Dallas yesterday. Had no plans of it. We went and kind of did our thing, and we ended up just drifting into Dallas downtown, rode scooters, and then saw this guy get killed. So, anyway, it's just, I can't stress it enough. It has been amazing. I have a clarity. I was just telling Robbie just now that what he's been sharing, that I took it as I am an intercessor, whatever that is. That I get to intercede as a light bearer and get to step into the darkness and tell other people that the table's been set and you get to join the light. And so, yeah, it's been amazing. Our marriage is the best it's ever been in our entire life, and it's awesome.
It's nice.
That's so much what I'm going to be talking about. What is RT4? It's beautiful, right? Because it's the purest picture. When I'm healed, when I'm fully healed, when my thoughts align to His thoughts, when I know without a doubt, no matter what I'm facing, that He's my Father, I'm His daughter. I carry His authority, not because of what I've earned. I'm not like, that's a sick testimony, being in the dentist chair and prophesying. It's that purity of spirit, right? We're just so connected to who He is. It's when we're out of our mind, His mind takes over, right? Like, that's truly like such a picture of being possessed by God. And then he can do absolutely anything through our lives. It's so amazing. All right, are you ready? Do you have something to share, Cameron?
I mean, sure. I don't have a ton, but I guess he told most of our testimony. So I can think. But yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing for me is finding my voice. I feel like I found the Lord, like my confidence and my I know that I have authority in Him to speak to the darkness and say, go. And just a real faith that I think, well, the first thing that you said to me when I talked, I don't even know how I found Robbie, it's just so crazy. Just watching that movie, and then I signed up for this call and I didn't expect him to answer the phone. I thought like an administrator would answer and just explain what it was. But then it was the same voice from the documentary, and I was like at this coffee shop, and I had ordered a coffee, and then I realized what time it was, so I called, and Robbie was on the other end of the phone, so I just left my coffee that they prepared, and I made it out to my truck and just like sat in my truck, and my coffee was gone by the time I went back in. But what you said to me just really struck very deep. He said that the Lord is a tree in you. He's not a seed. But that you need to choose to set up camp underneath His branches. And for me, I was raised, my family, my mom and my grandma, my great-grandma, they're all teen parents, and my mom and my dad had me their freshman year in college, and they're polar opposites. It was just kind of an accident that happened. And so I've been trying to please these two polar opposite people. And so even just that the Lord is a tree, like He's just even confirmed, like the Lord's protected you from a young age, but and I've felt Him so strongly from a young age, but yet I think I've been not confident in speaking Him sometimes because of this need to feel approval from the people around me. And so it's just been this whole process, even in my marriage, not needing approval from Ben, but seeking approval from my dad, seeking God's approval rather than the fear of man. And that's been really huge. And in our marriage, we went to marriage counseling right after all of this stuff surfaced, and it was awesome. We had a great experience, but I always thought that there would be some place in myself where I didn't trust them. Just a little, I knew we could heal, but I didn't think it would be to the point of slate clean. But God has wiped it away. And that happened only through, not through marriage counseling, and I'm not saying counseling was great, but it was God. God was the one, and we had to go to our close out appointment, where it's our last appointment just very recently, and Ben's counselor was asking me what do you attribute this to? You feeling because I was we don't really have anything to talk about anymore. I don't really know why we're here. And he's what do you attribute that to? And I'm God. There's just no other way to explain it. And sometimes it's people don't believe you. He's wiped it clean. And Jesus is leading us to Robbie, and I've, you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart. Just that constant pursuit of Him, and it's this faith of knowing, I'm just even in the unknown, I'm just going to continue to press in. And when I'm not seeing healings, or why does He see all these healings? Why is He praying for people? I'm just okay, well, I'm just going to keep pressing into you, Lord. I'm not going to, I found myself getting discouraged at certain points, but it's in the unknown, and you said this, just press in, and He will meet you. You will find Him when you seek Him. And that's a promise. So, I feel completely, I feel so much more alive, and just thankful. I'm so thankful. And He's transformed not only our lives, but I mean, we just started seeing these supernatural things happening, and God's doing stuff that's so much bigger than just our lives. And we just recently reconnected with our old church with some people that kind of dispersed. And when I connected, I realized God's been doing very similar things in other people's lives who dispersed in other places. So his plan is bigger. And just knowing that we're part of his plan, the pressure is off of us to have to do the work or to try to come up with a vision. Like, waiting on his revelation is so much more powerful because it's already planned and we just get to tap into it. I spent most of my life trying to create a vision. And it's so much stress. And also, just the last thing is that I haven't felt anxiety in the past 3 to 4 months at all. And yeah, you said that Daddy's freed you from anxiety, from shyness, from insecure relationships, and now he's about to take you into a place where the things you imagined about him are going to be real. And that happened. So.
Come on.
God's good. So that's a little bit about who we are and RT4, and everything we do comes around that. It's seeing people launched into their destiny, and if we can serve you in that way, we'd be honored to do that. So if something resonated in with you that, this Epic this coaching, I need this, it's on the website, you can get more information there. You can sign up for a discovery call, and Robbie will answer the phone. It'll be Robbie on the other end of the line. And a couple other opportunities. Linda has shared this morning about her experience in coming to England, and it shook her life, literally. It launched her into breaking new ground ministry. She's launched her own ministry and all kinds of opportunities. So the international trips we do, we go there to serve at the churches, to bless the nation we're in, and to do ministry, but it's also for you. Because you leave your comfort zone, it awakens something inside of you, and God encounters you in a fresh way that you don't expect. So we're planning a trip. I don't have the details yet, but I will soon. It's the best place in the world to go for a mission trip. I promise you, it's the most beautiful country. We're doing a trip to Switzerland the end of October, beginning of November. Literally, it's so beautiful. It's such a great place to encounter God. So if that's an opportunity you want to consider, you can talk to me. I'll give you more details. And then one other opportunity, it's April 11th. I think it's this coming Thursday. We're starting an online course called The Personality of Joy. So it's dealing with how joy overcomes in our life and anxiety disappears. And Robbie will take it deeper. It runs for 4 weeks, and it's on Thursday evenings, and that's on the website as well, so you can check that out. So that's who we are a little bit. We're going to break for lunch, and we'll come back at 2. And we'll carry on. Adam, do you have any information on the lunch options near us?
I can share a quick